Hello everyone. Today I'll explain the Japanese samurai sword in detail. What kind of sword is it? It's called a Japanese samurai sword. Broadly speaking, any sword used by Japanese samurai can be called a samurai sword. Due to varying environments and needs, samurai used various types of swords, including the tanto, tachi, katana, wakizashi and others. Let's go through them one by one. Generally, swords from before the Heian period in Japan are called ancient swords. They are considered complex and lacking Japanese characteristics, so they are not regarded as samurai swords. The tachi can be seen as the representative of the samurai sword. During the mid-Heian period, influenced by the Ainu people's wakizashi from Hokkaido and the Kuril Islands, the naginata emerged. This knife's blade and handle are forged as one, but a solid iron handle would be too heavy. To reduce weight, the handle is designed with a hollow section in the middle. The ancient Japanese tweezer, called mobatsu, was mainly used for hair plucking. The hollow-shaped handle resembles this tweezer, thus it's called mobatsu-type tachi. The handles of mobatsu-type tachi are typically the length of a one-handed sword. In the late Heian period of Japan, tachi officially appeared and became so popular that it was called the tachi era. Tachis have a significant curvature and vary in length from 1 to 1.5 meters. Those under 3 shaku are called ko-tachi, while those over 5 shaku are otachi or yadachi. 1 shaku, a traditional Japanese unit, is about 29 centimeters, similar to measurements from the northern and southern dynasties in China. The tachi differs slightly from other swords. Its distinctive feature is 2 metal rings on the blade, known as zokinmono. They are woven together with ribbons for easier carrying. A small metal piece connects the ribbon and the zokinmono. The blade is wrapped in metal on the head, and when drawing the sword, one must press down the metal strip at the mouth of the sword boot. In the early days, it was primarily a cavalry sword, usually wielded with one hand. Based on the common warfare methods during the northern and southern dynasties, the samurai took pride in their impressive records. The katana's design for one-handed use is evident. Its curved blade makes downward strikes more effective. This shape inherits the earlier curved forms of the naginata. The emergence of these swords changed the battlefield tactics, shifting focus from head strikes. The daito, also known as the wild sword, refers to swords over 5 feet long. Today, the daito is rare in mainstream Japanese martial arts, but frequently mentioned in weapons history, mainly active during the late Heian period and the mid-Kamakura period. At that time, battles lacked tactics and were characterized by duels between samurai. The samurai of that era prided themselves on strength, leading to the rise of daitos, over 1.5 meters in length, by the late Kamakura period, which became quite popular. The Japanese used the great sword technique, striking down from above with a straight arms, hitting the ground and rebounding. To avoid breakage upon hitting the ground, some great swords are not made with fragile materials. However, the sword is too large and cumbersome, offering little technique beyond the powerful downward strike, making it suitable mainly for battle. Thus, the shorter sword emerged. But at that time, there was no standardized system for combining different lengths. It wasn't until the later Warring States period that swords were classified by blade length as tachi and wakizashi. The short sword became the wakizashi, commonly worn alongside the longer sword for balance. It is common for Japanese samurai to wear a long and a short sword at their waist. This is the typical appearance. The wakizashi, also known as the side sword, is usually between 30 to 60 centimeters long and serves as a backup weapon for samurai, rarely used unless the primary longsword is damaged. Generally, for a successor, a companion sword is not commonly used. It is meant for specific situations. In battle, a katana or a tachi is usually not used simultaneously. However, legendary swordsman Miyamoto Musashi famously used the two-sword style, which does not involve a tachi and a companion sword. Moreover, companion swords are permitted as self-defense weapons for commoners, merchants, and non-samurai. Many ancient rebels used this weapon. The knife he needed for seppuku was made of bamboo. It was meant for both self-defense and utility. Clearly, the wakizashi is more convenient for seppuku. Japan has a long history of seppuku, initially performed with a wakizashi. This short blade cuts deeply. Technology allows it to pierce even balloons. Let alone flesh. However, even after 3 stabs, his spirit may still revive. Mistaken identities lead to quick cuts. What about the suicide? The seppuku participant hesitates to place the blade before him, possibly resting it on a special cloth. The participant prepares mentally for death, perhaps by writing farewell poems. With his kaishakunin and assistant ready, the seppuku practitioner opens his kimono and takes a knife to stab his abdomen. The practitioner first makes a cut from left to right, then a slightly upward second cut. The kaishakunin then executes a clean cut to the practitioner's neck, aiming to decapitate him in one swift motion. This cut is very precise, as the kaishakunin is typically a master of swordsmanship. If the blade is not sharp enough, or if the angle and force are incorrect, the practitioner's head may not be severed. The seppuku practitioner agrees in advance with the kaishakunin on when to execute the decapitation. Some practitioners use a fan or wooden sword instead of a small knife for a formal seppuku, but in fact they are directly decapitated by the kaishakunin. This is called fan seppuku. Among Japanese short blades, there's a popular type known as the kato, famous during the Media Age. As the name suggests, it is a type of armor-piercing dagger. These daggers are typically made thick to ensure their armor-piercing strength. Generally, it's worn on the right arm and drawn with the left hand to stab when close to the enemy. Finally, we have the Japanese katana, which appeared the latest but is the most familiar. In the late southern and northern dynasties of Japan, the katana appeared. The main difference between a katana and a tachi is the sheath. The katana is directly tucked into the waistband. This is because the katana is inserted with the blade facing up. Thus, when Japanese antiques are displayed, the katanas are arranged with the blades facing up. If there are no fittings, you can tell by the inscriptions. Blade up indicates a katana, blade down indicates a tachi. In terms of length, the longest Japanese weapon is the naginata, also known as the brow-tip sword. This weapon has a large curved tip, with a standard blade length of about 1 to 6 feet. The blade is about 90 centimeters long, with a handle length of 3 to 6 feet, roughly 90 to 180 centimeters. The blade is usually covered by the sheath, with a handle about 7 feet, roughly 2.1 meters. And there are also naginatas that can be 3.6 meters long. Many used to believe it was a weapon for Japanese warrior women, but that's not true. According to legendary paintings and stories, the naginata appeared during the wars of the 10th to 11th centuries. During the Heian period, samurai fought by first shooting from horseback and then engaging in one-on-one duels. Later, when warfare shifted to infantry formations, the naginata began to be widely used by infantry. Chaos arises from human conflicts. As infantry combat became mainstream, polearms lengthened to nearly 2.5 to 10 meters, surpassing the naginata. Thus, the more convenient polearm replaced the naginata as the primary weapon for infantry. With the Edo period, Japan had no more need for warfare, and the Tokugawa shogunate restricted weapons to samurai. Fortunately, the shogunate's restrictions on naginatas only applied to the larger types. The naginata has survived as a martial art, and many women have taken it up for self-defense, which is why we see many female characters wielding naginata in anime. With the rise of Japanese anime, the samurai sword has become well known worldwide. These are the origins of the samurai sword. That's all for this episode. See you next time.